What's up, YouTube? This is JD Outdoors back with another video today. I was gone for a while, but I'm back. I'm going to start producing content for you guys, hopefully consistently here. Today's video, all we're going to be talking about is the tube jig. We're going to be talking about the different variations of it and the rod, reel, and line that you're going to want to throw all those different variations of it on. Stay tuned and you'll find out more. Alright, so now let's go into detail on the tube jig here. As you can see, we have a lot laid out, but the basics and what everyone probably knows about is the standard internal head tube jig. Just what the tube itself is a soft plastic, has a hollow body, and then these tentacles, you insert the jig head through the bottom, poke the eye out through, and there you go. It's not weedless or anything like that. But this is a popular bait for smallmouth, especially on the Great Lakes, stuff like that. So, from there, this is about a 3.5-inch tube, which is the standard size. As you can see, we have a lot of different variations here. Starting up top, this is a finesse tube. This is 2.75 inches. We have a finesse flipping tube, which is, I think this one is 3.25 inches, or maybe it's 3.5. Standard tube, 3.5. A flipping tube, which this one is 4 inches. The Magnum tube, which this one is 6 inches. So this one is ginormous compared to the finesse tube, but there's applications and times and places that you can throw all of these. So now that you have the plastics out of the way, for the heads, you're going to want to pair them to the size of the tube. For the little finesse ones, most of the time you're going to rig it with an internal head, like such. This is what it looks like before it goes in the tube. This one in my hand, I believe, is 1/2 ounce, and that's what I usually use. This is the same thing, 1/2 ounce, but it has rattles inside of it, make it a little more attractive, appealing. So this I would use in any of these top 3 right here for the most part. This one, it is a flipping tube, like I said, but it's a little bit smaller profile, so if you trim the tentacles a little bit on there, it can be great for the springtime for smallmouth, because it's just a nice small presentation for them. So now next, going into the flipping aspect of the tubes, what you could use is starting from here down, even the standard tube, you can use Trocar makes, and other brands as well, make these flipping hooks for tubes. They have a kind of a weird angle on them. That way when you thread the tube on, it's going to sit perfectly like that on there. With the bait keeper versus a standard hook, it's not going to sit exactly perfect because of the hollow body. Next, this is a pretty neat design. This is from Lifted Jigs. This is a weedless weighted internal tube jig head, which you can use for flipping. This one's 1/2 ounce, and basically there's a certain way to rig it, but once you rig it on there, tube jig's going to be dangling down like a regular internal one, but it's weedless, so you can flip it around docks, brush, cover, stuff like that. Super versatile right there, and I could use that with any of these bigger ones as well. It'd work perfect for this 4-inch flipping tube. Next, you could do, well, this, I guess, more so goes with the flipping hook, but the Texas rig weight just on top of it. This is 5/8 of an ounce. That's perfect for flipping, pitching around docks and trees, especially thick grass. So then this Magnum tube, there's not many things you can rig it on. So maybe this weedless tube jig head here, or this ginormous 7/0 Trocar hook, which is what is pictured down here. And I have this with a punch skirt on there. This is, I believe, 1/2 ounce. The punch skirt, pegged, Texas rigged. Now this right here, I would only really use for when I'm trying to get a very big largemouth bite and I'm punching grass or something like that, or kind of popping it along bottom, because you know, these ones aren't really smallmouth bait usually because they like that smaller profile of the standard tube jig or sometimes the finesse tube. But this just shows that the tube isn't just a smallmouth bait. The flipping tube's perfect for largemouth, and you know, years ago that used to be the big thing that they were flipping before creature baits, relay, and craws. But now, not many people are using them, so I've found if you start using them again, you might start catching more because the fish haven't seen them in a while. So now you might ask, what kind of rod and reel and line am I going to throw all these different baits on? So the top three, when I'm using them for smallmouth, I am always going to use a spinning rod for them. The finesse tubes, especially when you're using a lighter weight, so for me that would be 3/8 and under. I'm going to use a 7 foot to 7'3" medium action spinning rod. You'll have a lot more sensitivity. You can really launch it out there. And with that, I will use a 2500 size reel, usually, with 15-pound braid to an 8 to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, if I'm fishing in a spot where I know it's a little more rocky, I will bump up to 10 pound. But if I'm on Lake Erie, for example, I will almost always go with 8-pound test. So that works for, like I said, these top three when you're dragging it on bottom, which is a standard way to fish it. Cast it out there, let it sink to the bottom and drag it. Or you can crack a tube, which is you're letting it go out there, fall to the bottom, then you're, with a rapid motion, cracking it, your rod tip upwards, making it have a very erratic action and bounce off the bottom and plummet down again, bounce up off the bottom, plummet down again, which sometimes can get you more bites, but you just got to see what mood the fish are in that day. So, spinning rod for all the smaller finesse tubes. If you're flipping this smaller one here, I would go to a bait caster, but if I'm using it with an internal head, spinning gear. So then for these two flipping tubes right here, if I'm flipping them with a Texas rig weight and a hook like so, then what I will do is I'm going to throw it on casting gear, 7 foot to 7'6", maybe, medium heavy rod. Whatever flipping rod you use, perfect for it, because you want to have enough backbone. Set the hook because it's going to be rigged, Texas rigged, and we want to throw this around docks, grass, anywhere you'd throw a jig or a Texas rig or a craw. Then for the for the line size, for the flipping tubes, 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon line usually. That's what I'll use vast majority of the time. So now for the big flipping tube, the Magnum tube right here, because you have such a ginormous presentation, you're going to have a big weight on there, ginormous hook. I'll usually bump up to a bigger rod. So, yet again, 7 foot to 7'6", medium heavy to a heavy, depending on the weight that I'm using. If I'm going to go with a big 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce to punch mats or punch into thick grass, then I'm going to need that extra backbone. Line choice for that, 20 pound, and that's probably about it. 20 pound fluorocarbon line. You want a nice strong line, especially if you're fishing in all those weeds. You want the sensitivity there, and you don't want to have no stretch in it. You just want to boom, set the hook, get them out of the grass as quick as possible so they're not wrapping you up. But I believe I covered everything on the tubes. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of JD Outdoors on the tube jig. Hope you learned something, and you can take these tips and tricks, transfer them out onto the water, and catch more fish. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to leave a comment, or you can even message me on my Instagram, which is at JD_outdoors1773. You can ask me any questions you have about the tube jigs, if you want me to go into more detail, anything like that. But, yet again, thanks for tuning in today. Don't be afraid to like, share, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, guys.